Well, I'm back on the roof of the car park at Sainsbury's in Whitechapel, my favourite vantage point, to take a look at what was Bucks Row, now Durward Street. The reason I'm here today is because this week the Crossrail project, which has blighted the crime scene, the Polly Nichols crime scene on Bucks Row, through all the building works that's going on, has partially finished, and there's now new access. So I want to have a good look and see what's going on. I know there is some building work still going on, and there's still various bits and pieces and paraphernalia to do the building works there still. So it's not unrestricted access, but we're going to have a little look and see how the new developments affect the crime scene, whether it's adversely or not, whether we can still get a good look at what probably happened on that horrible day when Polly Nichols was murdered on August the 31st, 1888. If we look down Durward Street, which is now Durward Street, was Bucks Row. This is from the very end of it. On the left, the flats on the left, there was a pub called the Roebuck. We can't see very well down there. There's trees that weren't there in 1888. In the far distance we can see the City of London, the tower blocks in the City of London, which shows how close they are to this part of the East End. Now, if you can see an orange barrier further up, that is just past the location where Polly Nichols was murdered, which shows the distance. It's about 130 yards from the corner of what was Bucks Row up to where she was murdered. But we're going to take a closer look. We're going to walk down there and have a look. So down at the ground level now on Durward Street, behind me here is what was the Roebuck. Robert Paul, on the night in question, would have come out roughly where, if you can see that guy by those electric boxes over there, that's roughly where Robert Paul would have come out. It would have crossed over the road, come around the corner here on this side of the pavement onto what was Bucks Row, and walk down Bucks Row. Now if we look down Bucks Row here, Lechmere would have been walking up Bucks Row about 40 yards in front of Robert Paul when he got to the corner here, about where that telegraph pole is. The body was just this side of those orange barriers, and we're going to go up Durward Street stroke Bucks Row now and have a look. So I'm by the telegraph pole here. Robert Paul would have come around the corner if Lechmere was telling the truth, and Lechmere would have been this distance in front of him, presuming Lechmere was telling the truth, wasn't the murderer, and walked along here. The road was narrower. The pavement, was narrower. There was warehouses up to about here. The first alteration I notice is how they've restricted the width. If you can see, the width of Durward Street comes in here. It used to be pretty much dead straight, but they've pulled it in. They've narrowed the road a little bit, which is a bit of a shame. The width of the road in Bucks Row is of some significance for a lot of the arguments that take place. This is the original width. If Lechmere was in the middle of the road, he was here, and the body 3 paces away here. The yard of Brown's stairway yard, this isn't it, the original yard, but it was something like this, and the body was lying here. So it's 1, 2, 3 paces to the middle of the road, if he was in the middle of the road. He may have been closer, of course. So behind me here was Essex Wharf. Over here, where it says staircase 1, there was New Cottage. Where these barriers are, well, they haven't quite finished the works, was Brown Stable Yard, which is where Polly Nichols was actually murdered. Let's have a closer look. Now these barriers are in place because they're still putting in 3 parking bays. There's a little bit of the original wall over there, over the railway line. There's a railway line below this, and the end bit there is part of the original wall. That's about the only original thing we can see here now. And the road width is quite a lot narrower and different than it was before. It used to be totally flat, now it's slightly ramped up. Now a bit further down, here's the Board School, the famous Board School, which is the only substantial building left here. Until the Crossrail projects, there was a wall on either side here that was level with this here. Although this looks to me like it's been rebuilt. There was a wall about this high on both sides. Back here which was the original bridge over that railway line. It didn't look like a bridge, it just looked like two walls. On this side it's been considerably built out. It was sort of back to about here, so this thing here is encroached on it. So this part of the crime scene has changed quite dramatically. So behind me, down what was Bucks Row, we can see Brady Street, and that's actually Sainsbury's, 130 yards away. And it was PC Neal that said he heard PC Thane from here walking across. If you can see that man in the orange suit down there, roughly there, PC Neal said he heard PC Thane walking across all that way down there, 130 yards away, and he summonsed him with his light. Now in the opposite direction, this way, PC Neal said he summoned PC Mizzen with his light, but even with the restricted view and there's more works going on up there, PC Mizzen was on Valence Road. We haven't got a hope of seeing Valence Road from here because the board school juts out and there's a sort of dog leg. Bucks Row turned into White Road. You can't see anything like Valence Road from there. So it shows that PC Mizzen was on his way independently towards PC Neal. When PC Neal signalled him, PC Neal assumed he'd signalled him and summoned him, whereas in fact, of course, PC Mizzen was coming here because he'd met Lechmere and Robert Paul and was told to come here. Now if we walk over here, unfortunately, as I said, if we come and have a look this direction, this building juts out now. If we come to here and look down, you can possibly see a tiny little section of Valence Road. One theorist claims that PC Neal came here and managed to espy PC Mizzen. We're going to look down that end of Valence Road in a minute, walking across a tiny little section of Valence Road, and summons him with waving his light in the split second that PC Mizzen was walking across that little tiny section of Valence Road that's just about visible from this position. That's how he thinks that he was summoned, but clearly that's slightly ludicrous. It's like looking through the eye of a needle to see him, and PC Mizzen must have been halfway down the road already by the time Neal summons him, and Neal just was mistaken. In here we have the little remains of Winthrop Street. You can't get in there. Via Winthrop Street, an alleyway led in just around the corner called Woods Buildings. It's quite well known in Ripperological circles. You can't get access any longer from Whitechapel Road through Woods Buildings to here because it's been blocked off due to the Crossrail works. Just around the corner here, a night watchman called Mulshaw was on duty on the night in question, and a little bit further down was the Harrison Barber horse slaughter yard, where there are 3 horse slaughter men. So there was quite a lot going on around here. It's an implausible route for escape for the victim, for the culprit, because of that, I believe. This is the front of the board school, and over here we can see there's still quite a lot of building work going on, a lot of restricted access to the whole scene of crime, the whole surrounding area, and until this is all cleared up, which I've got no idea how long that'll take, we won't have proper access to this whole district. We're a bit further down Bucks Row, roughly where it turns into what was then Whites Row. It's all Durwood Street now. This is Court Street, and at the end there is Whitechapel Road. This is the road I suspect the victim and her killer, who I obviously think was Lechmere, came before they went down, and she was murdered just around the corner there. This is, I think, the most likely access route. And as we can see over here, there's still more building works going on and more paraphernalia to do with the Crossrail project still in place. This is the next street down, what is now called Fulbourn Street. This is where I think, I believe PC Neal came up here on his beat prior to finding the body down there. If we look down here, you can see all this stuff to do with the Crossrail project still. We can see the board school. Polly Nichols was found just a little bit further down. So behind me is the end of Whites Row. Lechmere and Paul would have come around the corner here, onto what was Baker's Row, up to where they bumped into PC Mizzen on the next corner up there. Now I want to illustrate to you how impossible it would have been for PC Neal to see PC Mizzen here, as I discussed a little bit earlier. Now the most logical way for PC Misen to get to the crime scene would be to walk around here, over the road where that man in orange is, and around the corner, straight down. And he would have been out of sight of PC Neil until he was about 50 yards away. That is if PC Misen acted upon the information given to him by Lechmere. For the other theory to be true, for PC Neil to see PC Misen actually on Baker's Row and signalling with his lamp, it means that PC Misen was actually ignoring any information he was given and was going on his merry way. I'll show you why that is. Now, the only place you can see the place where PC Neil could have been to wave his lantern around is here, which means that if PC Misen was here, it means he's not going down White's Row, he's gone past it and was going in this direction. And not only that, he must have been looking backwards over his shoulder, because there's a brief couple of yards where you can see that location that PC Neil could have been, and it would have been like this. So that literally is what PC Misen must have been doing. He must have been looking backwards over his shoulder to catch that brief glimpse of PC Neil shining his lantern at him just at precisely the right moment. It's totally implausible. It also means, as I say, that PC Misen was actually ignoring whatever Lechmere had said to him. So this is the corner of Old Montague Street and Hanbury Street with what was Baker's Row. This is the location where PC Misen met Robert Paul and Lechmere. Now back over here we can see the corner of what was White's Row, Durwood Street, when they walked around here. Now we're going to go back and have a look at the new Whitechapel Station. So now I'm on Whitechapel Road, and this is the other end of Court Street. We're going to go and look at the front entrance, the new front entrance to Whitechapel Station. A little bit further down, and here is the entrance to Wood's Buildings, which is used now by the market traders to stow their barrows and stuff for their market trading. Over there is the Whitechapel Working Lads Institute, where the inquest into Polly Nichols took place and many of the other Jack the Ripper victims. And bang next door is Whitechapel Underground Station. It's the old exit, and it's now the new old entrance is now the new entrance, and it's the original fascia, but inside is very different, as we'll have a look. So the old ticket office has been ripped out. I actually preferred the old-fashioned ticket office. It's very modern and futuristic, as you can see. This is the new concourse, and there's a walkway through to Durwood Street, where we were earlier. As we can see, Durwood Street up here. Here's some of the original wall. And here we are back to the original scene of crime, Brown Stable Yard, this little car park. It's literally here where Polly Nichols was murdered. So after a bit of a delay since my previous film, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share, and keep tuning in to the House of Lechmere.